Hello, hello. Hey, trying to position this. Okay. Hey. All right. So I am going to jump right into our live training for this evening inside of the Digital Church series. Hello, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome in. Good, good, good. Okay. So, hey. Yes, everything is well. So on this evening, what I am going to be talking about is how to lean into online church. 3 mistakes to avoid going digital with your church experience. So this is video number 6 inside of the Digital Church series. And what I want to talk about today is the fact that we are in the thick of this COVID-19 pandemic, and some states are considering going back to business as usual. But what does this mean for the church? What things do you need to consider to protect your congregants and to continue to thrive in ministry? It's time to lean in. So this is what this conversation is all about. So leading through a crisis is difficult for every organization. We're seeing this not just for our churches, but for people who are businesses, whether it's large businesses or small, people who are running nonprofit organizations, schools, universities, everything. So leading during a crisis is very, very difficult. And as a leader, you have to make the best decision for your congregation while you are also leading an organization, right? So having to consider your staff at the church, having to consider the upkeep of your ministry and your church building, and so on. So now that we made it through Easter, right? We've made it through Easter, and we really had to hit the ground running with going online and moving our church from a building to a online ministry in literally like 2 weeks, right? So everything was full speed ahead. But now we are 1 month into having church online, and many ministries have copied and pasted their in-person experience to an online experience, and that works for some churches, but for some churches it doesn't work, right? And I could talk more about that later. But the fact that we made it through Easter is a good thing. What I want us to really start to think about is rethinking what online church looks like for your ministry, because the future is unforeseeable. We don't know what's going to happen. Some states, not going to say many, but some states are beginning to go back to business as usual. But many states are not doing this, right? We understand that our president has given this 3-point rule to begin reopening our country starting May 1st. May 1st is about 10 days away, right? So states like Florida and Texas their governors have said that they are opening back up. But what does that mean for the church? And it is really critical that we are prepared for this season that we're in, and that we are also prepared moving forward. So the first thing that I want to talk about is, 1, pivoting from pastoring large rooms to living rooms. So pivoting from pastoring large rooms to living rooms. So this new norm is uncomfortable. Yes, it is. There has been a major shift in our church, a shift in our church culture, a shift in our church using technology to the extent in which we are now using technology if your church was using this much technology to begin with, right? Also, a shift in our communications. How are we sending out information to our congregants? What does that look like throughout the week? What does that look like on Sunday morning? How are we communicating? This shift is so much different, right? Communications, when we think about traditional church communications, is announcements on Sunday morning. That's a bulletin that you might receive when you come into the door, right? Or some type of card. That's a new visitor's card that someone who has never come to your ministry before receives. All of these things are now electronic, or they should be electronic, right? So we've been able to move our Sunday service from these large rooms, right? Our inside of our sanctuaries to being into someone's home. And that may be you going into your church and ministering within the sanctuary, or that may be you being at your house from your living room, from your office space that you have in your home, and sharing the gospel, right? So this communications looks extremely different for us. This is a new norm. And for many of us, be it baby boomers, Generation X, millennials, and even some Gen Z, if you were raised in the church, this is something that is completely foreign to us and how we are used to coming together and worshiping, right? That's a big part of our beliefs, right? Coming together, being among fellow believers, right? So shifting these things, the culture of our church, shifting into full use of technology, shifting our communications and how we are communicating with one another and how we are sharing information from ministry to individual. So it's really time to begin thinking of ways to make this adjustment work long term. And I know we don't want to hear that. I get it. I get it. Trust me, I get it. But we have to be prepared because, again, we don't know what is going to happen. We don't know. And we really, yeah, we don't know what's going to happen. So we have to plan for this. So pastoring from your living room. So I've seen a lot of ministers or a lot of pastors do this, right? And what I really want to encourage you, if you are going to use this way of sharing your sermon, is that you look into ways to having the right equipment. The right equipment is really important. So not just using your phone, not just using your laptop and hitting a button and now you live and now you're talking, but what does that look like as far as lighting goes? What does that look like as far as you being mic'd up or having a mic goes? What does that look like as far as using cameras that are HD, where you can stream and listen, right, clearly, as well as sound, right? Acoustics, being in a room. How does the sound bounce off the walls? Do you need to consider having these different layers of sound laid out? And I don't know all the right words, but I can see it in my head, where you have things that are around you that will help you to keep the sound in a close vicinity. So if you are not using a microphone, then it sounds very clear to your congregants as they are listening to you online. So as we are pivoting from pastoring inside of large rooms in our churches to living rooms, you want to really start to create this one-on-one feel for your members. So you want to draw them in by asking them to participate, by asking them to engage with what you're saying, right? By asking them to put something inside of the comments, right? So that you can know. And not just having them not just having your members put something in the comments and you never, go and look at it, but how can you also have your phone that is up and you can see what someone is saying, if they are agreeing with you, if they're saying yes, they're saying amen, right? This is something that's really important if you are also doing Bible study online, and people may ask questions as you are doing Bible study, right? People may have comments as you are doing Bible study. What does that look like when you are inside of your church doing Bible study, right? So oftentimes, from what I know Bible study to be, is that you have a time in that moment where you can ask questions, where you can dive deeper, where you can get a deeper level of understanding for yourself. So you want to offer that opportunity to your members where they can still do that in an online space. So you really have to consider, how are we making this pivot from pastoring in large rooms in our churches to living rooms now in our homes, in the homes of our congregants? And what does that look like for them? And what does that experience look like for them when they are sitting at home watching you from their computers, from their phones, when they are sitting at home watching you on their television screens, right? So the second point that I want to make here is we have to test, right? We have to test. Now that we are 1 month in, we have done all of these things, we have made these adjustments. How are we determining if this is working for our ministry or if it's not working for our ministry? So what works and what hasn't worked? So as a leader, you have to ask yourself, are you oversaturating your members with too many options? Is it too many options for streaming? Is it too many options for giving? Right? So then people really don't know which way they should go. One of the things I really want to point out here that I've said previously is that you want to use your church's website. Again, yes, your church needs a website. If your church doesn't have a website, please send me a message so we can talk about getting your church a website. So you need to have a website and let that be your main communications hub, right? So that people can go to your website. It doesn't matter if these are millennials, Generation Z, if these are people who are Generation X, they can go to a website and be able to, type in whatever your domain is and get all of your methods for them to find what's the best streaming option for them, right? Same thing for your giving. All these things should be listed somewhere on your website so that they can find what is the best option for them. This is really important because, when we are using social media, you don't want to just be all over the place. And I think it's, a lot of times when I have conversations with ministry leaders, when I have conversations with people who are in business, is that we struggle to know which social media platform we should be on and what's the right platform for our business, what's the right platform for our ministry, where should we be? So you really have to consider the demographics of your church. You really have to consider the persons that you are looking to invite into your church. So Facebook is really a catch-all. Everybody's on Facebook. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how young you are. So that is a platform that is readily available and is easy to use. Now, when we start looking into things like Twitter or Instagram and Snapchat and things like that, that may not be the place where you want to show up, or not even that may not be the place where your members are, or that might not be the place where they're looking to receive information from your ministry. So Facebook is really a catch-all place because it gets you to everyone, right? It gets you to everyone. If you're looking to, if you have a younger demographic in your church, Instagram is always a plus to go that way. Twitter is more in, the businessy space. So when we're thinking about short messages that can get out, more so for our media. So we see a lot of journalists there. We see a lot of news platforms there on that platform. I think that's good if you decide to do something where it is more conversational with your congregants, right? If you're doing like a chat, right? A Twitter chat where you can propose a question and people can comment back and forth and you can start a thread, right? Where it's more conversational. But if you're just posting and no one's there to see the post, it doesn't make sense to have that account, right? So the next thing that you need to ask yourself in this testing theme is, how do you know what's working and what's not working? And are you tracking this? So are you tracking to see how many people are streaming on one platform versus another? Are you tracking to see how people are receiving communications on one platform versus another? And whatever platform you see the most usage on is the platform that you need to optimize and capitalize on the most. That's the platform that you need to solidify as your communications platform, as your streaming platform, because you don't want to stretch yourself thin during this time. We're already, it's already a lot going on, so you don't want to stretch your ministry thin by trying to be too many places at once. You want to find your groove and stay there. What's working, what's not working? Look at the data, look at the number. How many people are streaming on this platform versus another? How many people are using this communications platform versus another? And being able to solidify which of those platforms you are going to use. So once you make this determination, you need to decide if you're going to continue to use this, if you're going to revamp what that looks like, or if you're going to get rid of that altogether. The third point that I want to make this evening is planning. So having a plan is key. This is like the final piece of this whole thing, is you want to have a plan. So what is your church's mission? How can this mission be translated online? So at my church and for my church, our mission is that we are a community church with a global vision. So for us, that's translated throughout all of our messaging, from every graphic that you see, from the images that you see, from when our pastor speaks when he gets up, from when our ministry leaders speak when they get up. So that is a common thread throughout the ministry and throughout the fabric of our church. We're focused on missions. We're focused on evangelism. So you see this online and offline. So even when we're offline, there are still representations of that we can share online. So how can you translate your church's mission from a physical space to a virtual space? The next thing you need to ask in this planning phase is, what is your church's goal for online ministry? Now, I know this is something that we have not thought about. Most churches have not thought about, because we were just live streaming our service on Sunday morning, and that's it. We just live streamed the service on Sunday morning, and that's all we did. We didn't have to really consider what was the goal of us being online. And our goal should be the same for every ministry, and that should be discipleship, right? So using digital platforms to disciple, to get the message of Jesus Christ out to everyone, to believers and non-believers, so that we can bring them back to Christ. So what is your church's goal for online ministry? Or do you even have a goal? And what does that look like? And how are you getting people to join your ministry via online? Because now they can't walk down the aisle to sit in a chair to say that they are accepting Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. They can't walk down the aisle to sit in a chair to say that they want to rededicate their lives to Christ. So what does that look like in a virtual capacity? Is that a form? Is that a direct message? Do you have a strategy for how that works when you go live on Sunday morning? What does that look like? So really, what does the future of using online methods and online technology look like for your ministry? And really considering these things, pivoting from pastoring large rooms to living rooms was the first point. The second thing was testing, understanding what is working and what is not working, and making, a revamp. The third thing was planning. Having a plan is key. How do we take our ministries from what we are used to having in a physical space to being online? So that plan is something that is critical. What does that look like for your ministry? So this training was really to get you to begin thinking long term about being online, having church online, because we do not know what's going to happen in the future. And even as we get to the point where we begin to gather together again, what I see is that I don't believe that we're all going to just go back to church on one Sunday morning. once we go back to church, we may be going back to church in waves, right? Where only so many people can show up on a Sunday. So what happens to the rest of the people who may not be able to come this Sunday, or who didn't come this Sunday? They're still going to be online. So how do we begin to really think about church physically once we get back there, but then also thinking about church online, really having church and really being the church online? What does that look like? I really, really want us to think about this, and that's why I'm having this conversation with you all this evening. So what I am preparing to launch very soon is a platform that is called Digital Church University. And this digital church series is leading up to this. And this is something that God put on my heart 2 years ago that I wrote down and I shared with my pastor, and I sat in his office and I told him about it. And I've been scared to launch it, honestly, right? So doing this digital church series, putting us in this, in this crisis that we are in now. And I told myself that I was going to move forward with this year and launch it in May. So I'm still going to move forward this year and launch it in May. So with this, what Digital Church University is all about is using digital discipleship to impact more lives. So I have created a Facebook group that is now online that you all can go to and you can join. And if you go to Facebook and you type in Digital Church University, I want you to join this group, and I want you to ask any questions that you have as it relates to using technology in the life of your church. So the mission of Digital Church University is to serve as a resource to African American churches by providing online training to help church leaders and ministries gain a deeper understanding of how to utilize social media and other digital outlets to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. We are called to proclaim the good news to everyone. Mark 16:15. Social media provides your congregation with the basic tools to communicate online, while DCU builds your knowledge of operating these communications tools effectively so that you can reach the churched, unchurched, and de-churched to impact more lives. And this platform is for church plants, growing churches, and mega churches. So again, go to Facebook, type in Digital Church University. It's a Facebook group. Join that Facebook group for your ministry so that we can begin the dialogue and the conversation of really, thinking of church in an online capacity, because church as we know it is really getting ready to change. And I know that it is uncomfortable for us, but we have to make the shift. Now we have to make the shift, and we have to continue to do what we have been called to do. And that is to share the good news to everyone, the church, the unchurched, and the de-church, to bring them back to Christ. So thank y'all for joining me on this evening. And I will see you all next week for another video training inside of the Digital Church series. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, send me a message. Reach out to me. My email is Keisha@knragency.com. And we can continue this conversation as it relates to your ministry individually, and to dive deeper into this concept of having online church, moving from large rooms to living rooms. So thank y'all, and I will see you next week.